AI Impact Summit. Just a few kilometres from the conference venue in Delhi, the district of GB Nagar is rapidly emerging as one of India's biggest data centre hubs, with at least 17 facilities now operational or under development. Questions are being raised, though, about the impact on local communities, especially when it comes to the issue of water.
This is how Kanta Devi begins her day, carrying water home one bucket at a time. Although her family of 6 live in the district of GB Nagar, right on Delhi's border, they have no piped water. They live off just 6 buckets a day.
We use this water for everything: bathing, doing laundry, cooking and drinking. We use it to wash vegetables. Our cooking water is also our drinking water.
A government tanker brings water here at unscheduled times once a day. When it arrives, the street fills with queues. For hours afterwards, women walk back and forth hauling buckets. Authorities once planned to supply 50 million litres of water from the river Ganges per day to this area through a pipeline. But in July 2025, they shelved the project, saying the region's current supply was already under pressure. But just a kilometre away from Kanta's home, another project is moving ahead, and the state government has promised it a round-the-clock water supply. A 50 megawatt data center jointly controlled by India's Adani Group and the US-based operator EdgeConneX is being built here. The joint venture website says it will reduce intensive water use and employ air-cooled chillers in place of water-cooled chillers. Construction workers told us off camera they have installed bore wells inside the complex. To clarify how water is being distributed, we called and even visited the Uttar Pradesh Water Corporation, the agency responsible for water supply and pipeline infrastructure in the area. No one would reply to our queries. India hopes to become a hub for artificial intelligence, and data centers are a key element to Delhi's ambitions. Shalu Agarwal is the director of a Delhi-based climate think tank and warns that unregulated growth could have consequences.
A lot of emphasis on incentives, approvals, be it fiscal, tax, or land-related, or even energy-related, to attract investments into their respective states, and with little focus, or in some cases no focus, on sustainability metrics.
In GB Nagar, groundwater levels have dropped significantly over the last few years, as more water is being taken out than nature can replenish. The new data center will likely only accelerate the pace. But here in GB Nagar, every day still begins the same way, with containers of water and the long walk home.
And we can talk to Ketan Joshi about this. He's a climate analyst and writer based in Oslo. Welcome to DW. That report we just saw made it very clear there's not enough water for people, but there are huge data centres being built which depend on massive amounts of water. So can you give us a sense of how sustainable this situation is?
That was a remarkable story, and I've seen many stories like it around the world. My background is in energy and power grids, and I see similar narratives, whether it's regards to power or water. What we see is data centers consuming far, far more resources than local communities can handle. So ultimately, at the scale that this change is occurring, it is not sustainable, and many more things need to change.
So let's talk about what needs to change and the possible solutions, because obviously the use of AI is booming. You know, how can economic growth, investment in data and AI, how can that be balanced with the obviously very important environmental protection and keeping people's needs in mind?
What I found in my work is that a much deeper consideration for the scale of the software technologies that are being deployed is really, really important. You can achieve a lot of constructive and effective things with much smaller models. So the amount of what's known as training and also the energy consumption of when you're using them can be reduced quite significantly. The right incentives just need to be in place for companies to develop leaner, and much more community respecting software.
So we're talking about incentives for companies, but presumably also structures that will hold them to account, because we heard in that report that they were saying we're going to do one thing and actually they were doing another. I mean, presumably that's a challenge as well.
Indeed, and the focus of my research and reporting on this has been on greenwashing narratives around companies. This is essentially when they say that they're resolving their climate commitments or resolving other commitments to local communities, but that is not the case. They need to be held account by governments and media outlets and local communities, I think much more than we're seeing. And I think that too will help put constrictions and boundaries on the type of developments that are occurring.
If we can talk about the other side, the fact that poorer neighbourhoods, like the one in that report, can benefit from investment in data hubs in the long term, given the employment opportunities and the growth these hubs are likely to bring. I mean, that's presumably an important aspect as well.
It is, and my background is in renewable energy, where there have been similar stories around the local benefits of building solar farms or wind farms. But I think something really important to remember here is that it has to be couched on a long-term strategy for the survivability of the industry. Of course, energy is something that everybody needs and it's lasting for a long time, but it's really unclear, particularly in the context of generative AI. So we're talking about consumer tools like chatbots and image generators, whether the level of investment that's currently occurring can be sustained over a long time. I think that to take away a community's water and then to promise jobs as a sort of secondary thing, that's not a great balance. And I think that balance can be struck much better in the future, valuing the community's needs much higher.
It's great to get your perspective. Ketan Joshi, climate analyst and writer, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
We are going to move on to the American civil rights